Hey everyone, welcome back to Story Voyage. Today we've got something truly intense for you. We're diving into 3 shocking stories of betrayal, revenge, and heartbreak that will keep you on the edge of your seat. From public humiliation to unexpected twists and ultimate payback, these stories are full of drama you won't want to miss. Let's jump right into it. Caught her cheating at our anniversary dinner, but she never saw what came next. It was supposed to be one of those nights you never forget. Our 5th wedding anniversary, I was beyond excited. I had made reservations at the restaurant where we had our first date. That place had become our little tradition, and every year we'd go back to celebrate. I thought I was doing everything right. I had the perfect gift planned, a weekend getaway to a luxury resort. I had been saving for months, cutting corners wherever I could just to give her the weekend she deserved. I figured after everything we'd been through, the tough year, the late nights at work, the stress of everyday life, this would be our way of reconnecting. It was supposed to be special. That night, she looked breathtaking. I still remember the red dress she wore, the one I bought for her just a few weeks prior. She came downstairs with a soft smile on her face, and for a moment, I allowed myself to believe everything was fine. But deep down, I knew something had changed between us, and I couldn't put my finger on it. The whole evening felt off. She laughed at my jokes, but the laughter didn't reach her eyes. She held my hand across the table, but it felt distant, like she was only doing it because she had to. And then there was her phone. Every few minutes it would buzz. She'd glance at it, her face lighting up in a way that sent a knot twisting in my stomach. When I asked her who it was, she just shrugged and said it was nothing. Work stuff, she said, giving me that fake smile I'd grown to hate. As the evening went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was horribly wrong. I tried to ignore it. I tried to push it down, telling myself I was being paranoid, but the nagging feeling wouldn't go away. It was like an itch I couldn't scratch. After dinner, we ordered dessert. I remember staring at her across the table as she ate her creme brulee, wondering if I was going crazy. Was it all in my head? Was I imagining things? But then she excused herself to go to the restroom, and that's when I saw it. Her phone was left on the table, the screen still lit up from the last text she had received. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was desperation, but I reached for her phone and looked at the screen. And that's when my world came crashing down. The message was from someone named Mark. I didn't recognize the name at first, but the content of the message left no room for doubt. Can't wait to see you tonight. Missed you all day. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. My heart was pounding in my chest, my hands trembling as I stared at the screen. I couldn't believe what I was reading. She was seeing him tonight, after our anniversary dinner. She had been planning it the entire time. I could hear my pulse in my ears, the blood rushing through my veins as the reality of the situation hit me like a freight train. She'd been cheating on me, probably for months. I thought back to all the late nights she said she was working, all the weekends she claimed to be visiting her mother, all the times she seemed distant, distracted, like her mind was somewhere else. It all made sense now. I should have confronted her right then and there. I should have flipped the table, yelled, made a scene. But I didn't. I don't know why, but something inside me told me to stay calm. Maybe it was the shock. Maybe it was the years of trying to be the reasonable one, the one who always kept his cool. So I put her phone back where it was, wiped my hands on my napkin and waited. She came back a few minutes later, smiling, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. Ready to go, she asked, her voice cheerful, like she hadn't just destroyed my entire world. I nodded, paid the bill, and we left. The drive home was a blur. She kept talking about how wonderful the evening was, how much she loved the restaurant, how thoughtful I was. I responded with grunts and nods, too angry, too hurt to even look at her. Every word out of her mouth felt like a lie. Every smile she gave me felt fake. And all I could think about was how she was planning to leave me and go straight to him. When we got home, I didn't say anything. I just kissed her on the forehead, told her I was tired, and went upstairs. She didn't seem to notice anything was wrong. Or maybe she just didn't care. I waited until she went to bed. Then I went downstairs, grabbed a bottle of whiskey, and sat in the dark, trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. This wasn't just a one-time thing. This was planned, calculated. She had been lying to me for months, stringing me along, making me feel like everything was fine while she was sneaking around behind my back. And the worst part was, she didn't even have the decency to hide it. She was sloppy, careless, like she didn't even care if I found out. That's when I decided I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I wasn't going to be the idiot who got cheated on and took it lying down. No, if she wanted to play games, I was going to beat her at her own game. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I told her I wasn't feeling well, that I just needed a day to rest. She barely seemed to notice. She kissed me on the cheek, told me she hoped I felt better, and left for work. Or at least that's what she told me. As soon as she was out the door, I called a private investigator. I had seen enough movies to know how this worked. I wasn't going to confront her until I had proof. Real proof. Something I could take to court if it came to that. The investigator was discreet, professional. Within a week, he had everything I needed. Photos, videos, text messages, the whole 9 yards. He followed her to her work meetings, her girls' nights out, her visits to her mother. She was with him almost every time. They were meeting at hotels, his apartment, even our house when I wasn't home. The audacity of it all made my blood boil. But I stayed calm. I didn't confront her. I didn't give her any reason to suspect I knew what was going on. Instead, I started planning my next move. I consulted a lawyer, gathered all the documents I needed, and prepared to take her by surprise. The night I confronted her was one I'll never forget. She came home late, as usual, smelling like his cologne. I was sitting at the kitchen table, the divorce papers spread out in front of me. She walked in, saw the papers, and froze. What is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. I know, I said, my voice calm, steady. I know everything. Her face went pale. She tried to deny it at first, tried to make excuses, but I wasn't having any of it. I laid it all out for her, the photos, the messages, the videos. There was no escaping it. She was caught and she knew it. She begged me to forgive her. She cried, said it was a mistake, said she didn't mean to hurt me. But I wasn't listening. I had made up my mind. I told her to pack her things and leave. The house was mine. Everything was mine. She was getting nothing. As she stood there, sobbing, trying to figure out what to say, all I could think about was how different things could have been if she had just been honest. If she had just told me the truth, maybe we could have worked through it. Maybe things could have been different. But now it was too late. She left that night, and I haven't seen her since. I don't know where she went, and frankly, I don't care. All I know is that I'm better off without her. She cheated with my best friend. I exposed them both in the most public way possible. My name is Ryan, and this is the story of how I lost my wife and my best friend in one fell swoop. But don't worry, this isn't a sob story. This is a tale of revenge, the kind of revenge you dream of, but rarely get to see in real life. For 10 years, I thought I had the perfect life. Sarah, my wife, was everything I ever wanted in a partner, or at least that's what I believed. We had been together since college, and I honestly thought we were one of those couples who'd make it through the long haul. She was smart, beautiful, and caring, and everyone who knew us envied our relationship. We had a house, good jobs, and plans to start a family. Then there was Jake, my best friend since high school. We'd been through everything together: school, road trips, bad breakups, you name it. He was like a brother to me, and Sarah got along with him so well that I never even questioned how close they were. In fact, I thought it was great. We were like a trio, inseparable. That is, until things started to unravel. It all began with small things. Sarah started getting distant. She wasn't as affectionate as she used to be. She stopped initiating conversations, and there were more and more girls' nights out. I didn't want to be one of those paranoid husbands, so I didn't push it. I figured maybe it was work stress or something. Jake was around a lot though, and I leaned on him to vent about what was happening. He would always reassure me, telling me that I was overthinking things and that Sarah loved me. In hindsight, it was the ultimate betrayal, sitting there, listening to him pretend to care while he was sneaking around with my wife behind my back. Things hit a tipping point when Sarah went on a weekend trip with her friends. I had a gut feeling that something was off. So out of desperation, I checked her laptop, which she had conveniently left unlocked. What I found changed everything. There were emails and text messages, hundreds of them. But they weren't from some random guy, they were from Jake. I read everything. From the flirty exchanges that had started months ago to their plans for future getaways. They were laughing at me behind my back, sneaking around right under my nose. I felt sick, my stomach churned, my vision blurred, and I could barely comprehend what I was reading. My best friend and my wife, the two people I trusted most in the world, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. But here's the thing, I wasn't going to let them win. I wasn't going to crumble and let them walk away like nothing had happened. No, I had other plans. I decided to play the long game. I didn't say a word to Sarah when she got back. I didn't confront Jake. Instead, I started plotting my revenge. I documented everything, the emails, the text messages, the secret meetings. I hired a private investigator to get hard evidence. And once I had everything, I set my plan in motion. A few months later, Jake's birthday was coming up. And as usual, we planned a big party with all our mutual friends. I played it cool, pretending like everything was fine. Sarah and I even hosted the party at our house. Jake was there, of course, grinning like an idiot, acting like my best friend, while he had no idea what was coming. As the night went on and everyone had a few drinks, I stood up and announced that I had a little surprise for Jake. Everyone cheered, thinking it was going to be a fun, light-hearted roast or maybe some embarrassing photos from our high school days. But instead, I pulled out a projector and hooked it up to my laptop. The room went silent as I hit play. On the screen, text messages and emails started to scroll. Sarah's flirtatious messages to Jake, his responses, their plans to meet up behind my back. Everyone in the room was frozen. I saw Sarah's face turn white as a sheet, her hand covering her mouth in horror. Jake looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. And I just stood there, arms crossed, watching as the truth unfolded in front of everyone we knew. The best part, I had set it all to music. It was a slideshow from hell, a cringe-worthy, deeply satisfying display of their betrayal, timed perfectly with their most intimate messages. It lasted 5 minutes, and by the end of it, no one in that room would ever look at them the same way again. Sarah ran out of the house sobbing, and Jake tried to follow her, but no one would let him. He got thrown out by a few of our mutual friends who were just as disgusted as I was. I didn't care. I was numb by that point, but I felt victorious. I had taken control of the situation, and I made sure that everyone knew who they really were. The aftermath was brutal for them. Sarah tried to contact me multiple times afterward, but I filed for divorce and blocked her on everything. Jake was ostracized from our friend group, and his reputation was in tatters. I moved on, and surprisingly, I felt free. Free from the lies, the deceit, and the toxic relationship I had been stuck in for so long. And as for revenge, well, let's just say it was served cold with a side of public humiliation. She left Maine for a younger man. Now she's begging to come back. Let me take you back to the day my life shattered. My name is Alan, and at one point I thought I had everything. I had been married to Jessica for nearly 15 years, and we had built a life together that most people would envy. We had a nice house in the suburbs, 2 kids, stable jobs, and for the most part, I believed we were happy. But then came the shift. Jessica started going to the gym more often, buying new clothes and changing her hairstyle. At first, I didn't think much of it. I was happy that she was taking care of herself and I wanted to be supportive. But soon enough, things started to get strange. She was spending more time out with new friends and started acting distant. Gone were the affectionate hugs and kisses. Conversations became short, shallow, and awkward. I would ask her if everything was okay, and she'd just brush me off, telling me she was fine, that I was overthinking things. I wasn't. It wasn't until I came home early from work one day that the truth slapped me in the face. Jessica wasn't expecting me. When I walked through the front door, I saw her sitting on the couch with a man much younger than me, mid-20s, athletic, handsome. It was like walking into a nightmare. I stood there in shock, my mind unable to process what was happening. Jessica scrambled to her feet, her face pale. The guy didn't even look fazed. He just stood up, cool as could be, like he didn't give a damn that I had just walked in on them. Alan, I can explain, she stammered, but there was no explanation that could fix this. I didn't need to hear any excuses. I didn't need to know how long it had been going on or why she did it. The betrayal was right in front of me, and that was all I needed to see. She left that day, moved out a week later, and filed for divorce shortly after. I couldn't believe it. After everything we had been through together, after all the years of love and commitment, she was leaving me for some younger guy she had known for a few months. It was like our whole life together meant nothing to her. The divorce was ugly. She wanted half of everything, the house, the savings, the kids. It was a bitter battle, but eventually we settled. I kept the house, and she got a chunk of the savings. The kids were the hardest part, though. We had joint custody, but they spent most of their time with her in her new apartment. For a while, I spiraled. I couldn't understand how everything had fallen apart so quickly. I spent nights alone in the house we had once shared. wondering what I had done wrong. I blamed myself. Maybe I hadn't been attentive enough. Maybe I had taken her for granted. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the case. Jessica had made her choice, and it wasn't me. Fast forward 2 years. I had slowly started to rebuild my life. The kids were my focus, and I had thrown myself into my work. I wasn't ready to date, but I was starting to find peace again. That's when Jessica showed up at my door. She looked different, worn out, like life hadn't been kind to her. She stood there, tears in her eyes, begging me to talk. I almost shut the door in her face, but something inside me told me to listen. I made a mistake, Alan, she said, her voice shaky. I thought I wanted something else, someone else. But I was wrong. It turns out her younger man wasn't all he was cracked up to be. Their relationship had crumbled within a year. He wasn't interested in settling down, didn't want kids, and had moved on to someone even younger than her. Now she was alone, miserable, and regretting everything. She wanted to come back. She wanted us to try again. I listened to her, but as she spoke, I realized something. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel the overwhelming sadness that had once consumed me. Instead, I felt nothing. I'm sorry, Jessica, Kari said, cutting her off, but we're done. I've moved on. Her face crumbled, and she started crying, but I didn't care. I wasn't that man anymore, the man who had been broken by her betrayal. I was stronger now, and I had learned how to live without her. As I closed the door, I realized that sometimes the best revenge is simply moving on. That's it for today's video. If these stories left you speechless, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any more mind-blowing stories. And don't forget to drop a comment below. What would you do if you were in their shoes? Until next time, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one on Story Voyage.